Hello. Now, this is a slightly different video to usual because I received a few comments asking how our video is actually made and what's the process of looping that I go under or I go through. And so I thought I'd show the process of listening to a song, developing a loop for it, and yeah, then performing, putting it together. I won't show the editing process too much because that's a non-musical bit. So yeah, I'll just show the sort of musical side of developing loops, the practicality of it, and then yeah, performing. And for this one, I'll keep it quite simple. It's not the simplest of loops because it's actually an awkward key, but in terms of the actual loop, it's quite simple. So I'll be doing "Hate You" by Joseph RIELL. Now, I've already covered that. I'll link the cover down below in the description, but I'll basically just show you how I came up with a loop for that and the process I undergo. So the first part of this process is just to listen to the song over and over and over, wherever you are, whether you're, working out at the gym, or if you're on walks, or if you're in bed about to go to sleep. It's a case of just listening to the music, getting it in your head. And this varies for each song. Sometimes I can listen to it sort of once, twice, three times, and I've pretty much got the whole chord structure, usually because it's not too complicated. With this one, because it was a bit more sort of difficult to figure out, just because the key was a little bit awkward. It took a few more times just to listen through, work out how I wanted to break down the different sections, because sometimes you can't get an exact loop, you can't get a perfect loop, because the song changes key or it changes sort of small things. But you've just got to decide how you want to break it down. For me, I basically have a first loop and then a second loop over the top, and the first loop is what you use for the verse, and so it's usually quite a it's a very simple, just chords underneath, maybe a bass line, and then the stuff you add on top is the big flashy stuff, all the big chords, maybe like a really deep bass, and so yeah, that's when you want the chorus and you want to sort of let rip with solos or improv or anything like that. Now, the equipment I use is just a basic looper and an octaver, and the octaver basically allows me to stick things down octaves, up octaves. I mainly use it for bass lines, and then the looper, obviously, I can add tracks, take them off. Now, for Hate You, it has quite an awkward little undergoing ostinato, I guess you call it, and if you sort of listen to it, then all you've got to do is copy it, imitate it, because that continues going throughout the whole song, and even verse, chorus, and so that can be the root for everything you loop around. I don't. Now, I stick that down an octave, just because it sort of more matches the pitch that they have, and the violin's only got so much range. I do use it on the electric usually. I usually use my electric violin, but for this purpose I'm using an actual one. So yeah, once you've got that in, you can then add on chords over the top of it, and you just hear them. But I will actually break them down. I usually just play by ear, but yeah, I'll break down the chords for you now. Now, once you've got your chords and bass line and everything in place, when you loop it, you've got to know which ones you're going to take away, so basically the chorus, and which you just want going throughout the whole thing. Now for this, I just have that ostinato that I showed you playing throughout, and that's just the root. That's the only thing I actually keep during the verse. In other songs, I might have a bass line or something playing as well, and keep that the entire time, but for this it's very simple, just one line. Now, everything else you can then build on top, and then you take it away for the verse and then add it back for the chorus. This is the most difficult bit for me, is actually remembering exactly the tune. And I usually just start making it up after a bit if I can't remember the tune precisely, because in the nature of making these videos, I've not had weeks to sort of properly memorize absolutely everything. So it's usually just going off one or two sort of listen throughs, so I can hear it, come out, record it, and then put it on YouTube for you guys. So yeah, if you don't remember the tune precisely, just make it up a little bit. Stay in key, and then you're fine. As long as you don't have quote unquote wrong notes, and even if you do, that's fine. Just jazz it up a bit. Just make it up and then come back to the tune when you actually get to a bit you sort of recognize. So I guess to give an example of this, if you're starting off with your and that's the beginning, but then you don't know where it goes from there, so you can just sort of start making things up. And nobody's really going to know. I mean, no, if they know the song very well, then they'll know, and obviously forgive my playing there. But yeah, it's just stay on key, and then you can just, when you get to a bit, you can play that. Now, when it comes to improvisation, all you really need to do is stay inside the chord sequence and key that's given to you. You can actually go out of it occasionally if you want to, say, jazz it up a little bit, or add a few sort of wrong notes in there to get some glisses and just quirky notes. But on the whole, for this one, it's just you're staying in the key, so it's just. But it actually varies. So you're sometimes in the harmonic minor, you're sometimes in the melodic minor. You can almost throw in some sort of major notes as well. And that's just for one of the chords. And as the chord sequence develops throughout the piece, or throughout the sort of 4 chords that are used, I think it's only 4, might be more. This sort of really shows how I'm not writing this music down. It's just all in head. You just hear the chord sequence. Actually, I'm going to listen to it and I'll get it right.
Not enough, so selfish. Can't keep up, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that, I hate you.
1 chord, 2 chords, 3 chords, 4 chords. Yeah. So there are just 4 chords in it, and some of them are the same, or at least share similar notes. So yeah, most of the improv really is just, it's not that, I don't know, it's not that varied. You just have to see what works, and just the way you do this, you just play along. If you want to get better at improvisation, play along to pop songs. The reason I say pop songs is because they have a lot less variation than classical. Jazz is good as well. Jazz is sort of less good because it can go really funky, and then you can sort of be thrown a bit until you're very comfortable with improv. But if you're just learning, just play along with songs. Just learn to play sort of just by ear. It is something you can learn. It's obviously a bit of a talent and skill, but it is something you can absolutely learn. You've just got to keep doing it. So yeah, when it comes to recording these and then the whole editing process and everything like that, I usually do my sort of recording just in one take, and then maybe I'll correct little details. I'll just go over a little bit again, just so I can sort of edit that in. And usually I'm not too fussed, but that's only really for YouTube, so I don't listen to it and I keep hearing the same mistake over and over. If you're recording, it's a little bit different to live performance. Live performance, obviously, that's what all of these are intended to be, in terms of you can just go out, loop it, and there you go, busk away. But yeah, I do go over little bits and bobs, so it's not purely one take for a lot of them, just because there'll be odd kinks, like a little, not a split, but a little cracky sort of note, or you might just really mess up a note on the improv, which I do a lot. But that's fine on live stuff because you can play it off. When I'm recording, I'll hear it. So hopefully this has been helpful in some regard. If there are still any questions people have, then ask away, and I'll try and come up with some kind of answer to them. I don't do sheet music because I don't do it for myself. As in, I don't use sheet music myself, and there is sheet music for a lot of the stuff out there anyway, especially the more popular songs. Um, yes, there probably won't be for things that I cover a day after they come out, but there are definitely other sort of channels and sites on YouTube that you can find similar things for. My loops, you'll see other violinists, so Albie, Rob Landers, even some Lindsay Sterling stuff. They'll all do their own sort of looping things. There's only so much you can do, which is different. So some of the loops will be very similar. They'll obviously have very similar chord sequences if they're the same song. But yeah, they're all a bit unique, and you can make your own ones unique. You don't have to copy exactly what I do, chord sequence wise and building up, especially if you're doing it on different instruments. Some things work on violin but don't work on sax or flute or something like that, or even guitar. If you're looking for guitar looping stuff, then I recommend The Do. I mean, his stuff's amazing. But a lot of those loops wouldn't work on violin so much, because you can obviously just play a lot more notes on guitar at once, so you can do chords far more easily, whereas violin, you just got to build them up a little bit more. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. If you have enjoyed, let me know if this kind of content is stuff you'd like to see going forward into the future, even if it's not necessarily tutorials, if it's just sort of a bit more behind the scenes stuff and how I'm looping things. And if you like the talking to the camera, I realize I ramble quite a lot, but it's because I actually I have a lot to say on this, and it's quite difficult to fit that into a sort of 10-minute-ish video. I don't know what it's going to come out as, but yeah, that's as much as I can sort of just talk you through without taking you baby steps through each loop, because the idea is to sort of encourage you to actually do your own looping and sort of develop it for yourself. But this is just the process that I go through that might actually help you come up with your own.